The U.S. Central Command has admitted it does not know how resources it gives to the Saudi-led coalition are being used in the conflict with Yemen.
Does CENTCOM track the purpose of the missions that it is refueling, what targets it strikes, and the results of the mission?
Senator, we do not.
Okay. Reuters recently reported on a Saudi coalition airstrike in late February that killed 5 civilians. Is CENTCOM able to tell whether U.S. fuel or U.S. munitions were used as part of that strike?
Senator, I don't believe we are.
Okay.
Well, last month, a group of U.S. senators introduced a joint resolution on Yemen. It aims to limit the president's power to wage war without an authorization from Congress and to cut America's support for Saudi Arabia, disentangling it from Saudi involvement in the Yemeni civil war. Now, the vote on the resolution is to be held soon. In 2017, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia signed an arms deal worth almost $110 billion. It has been described as one of the largest arms sales in American history. And meanwhile, here are pictures of the aftermath of the Saudi-led coalition's latest airstrikes in Yemen. A dozen air raids have been carried out against the airport, destroying most of the planes. A war broke out in Yemen 3 years ago, with the Saudi-led coalition bombing campaign against Houthi rebels, claiming thousands of civilian lives. The UN describes the situation as the worst man-made humanitarian crisis in modern history. Now, to discuss this further, I'm joined now by Daoud Khairallah, who's a professor of international law at Georgetown University in Washington. Thank you for being with us here on RT International, as always. Unfortunately, this is a dire situation. How serious is it that the U.S., the major military supplier to the Saudi coalition, does not know how their weapons are being used?
Well, it's a very, very serious question. It's an issue of gross negligence for a country like the U.S., who is supporting the Saudi coalition in its war against Yemen as provider of weapons, logistics, and all kinds of assistance, not knowing what its efforts are leading to, what their weapons are doing in Yemen. That is a very strange thing, you know, for a very high official in the Pentagon to recognize this or to say that. It is really a big, big issue.
So are there any legal issues that you're aware of in not monitoring or keeping records of how countries' weapons are used? I mean, is there a culpability on America's part in waging this war?
Of course. First, internationally, there are crimes of humanity and crimes of war, crimes against humanity and crime of war, that are being committed in the war on Yemen. And the U.S. being an accomplice in this case. The U.S. is a supporter of this coalition. For the U.S. to admit that, yes, we know what is happening, which is a more likely thing, it has consequences, legal consequences. In addition to this, there is a U.S. law that prevents recipient countries of U.S. weaponry to use it except in self-defense. Committing war crimes and crimes against humanity is hardly self-defense. So there are legal liability both internally and internationally.
Now, Daoud, I'm going to ask you to go down kind of a thought experiment with me. We've talked about the legal responsibility. What about the moral responsibility? Doesn't the supplier of the arms bear some responsibility if, I mean, civilians are dying?
Actually, the moral responsibility is shared not only by the American media, American public, by the international community. I mean, what is happening in Yemen, the continuous chain of crimes committed in Yemen against civilian, destruction of infrastructure, of one of the poorest countries in the world, and the international public opinion, international media does not do anything that really changes the course. It is just shocking and really very, very, very depressing.
All right. Daud Khairallah, a professor of international law at Georgetown University. Thank you for being with us and helping us wrap our minds around it.